Okay, so as Bernie, my name is Matthew Halpin. I'm an assistant agricultural inspector in the Department of Agriculture, based in the research division. I'm working alongside Patrick Barrett. Some of you, or many of you, may know Patrick. We're working on the bioeconomy side as well as agri-digitalization and ACUS. So this is part of our brief. The Bioeconomy Demonstration Initiative is the first call of its type. So I'm just going to give a quick run through the call, and we will have, if there's any questions at the end as well, feel free to ask. So just a bit of a background, I suppose, on the bioeconomy as a whole. So the bioeconomy has major untapped potential. It's fair to say it's widely recognised now at this stage that it has a massive role to play. So the concept, first and foremost, can support climate change mitigation and adaptation, which is obviously key going forward for all sectors across our economy. And to be a bit more specific, I suppose the full value of natural biomass is not being unlocked to its fullest potential within current bio-based systems. So herein lies, I suppose, the opportunity for primary producers of natural biomass, be it farmers, foresters, those in the marine sector, and all of other various actors right along to the end user of these products to avail of, would say, unlocking more potential from our natural resources. So as you can see here, there is very significant potential to sustainably cascade the use of biomass and to valorize biological waste. So the concept of cascading the use of biomass is essentially just prioritizing maximizing the highest value from our natural resources, and valorizing biological waste. Again, that's just extracting more value from our biological waste and making full use. From a policy perspective, the government's vision for Ireland is to become a global leader for the bioeconomy, and through that, and to do that, it's going to take a coordinated approach to harness Ireland's natural resources. From a policy perspective, you can see the document up in the top right hand corner. The policy perspective on the bioeconomy is supported by this national policy statement on the bioeconomy, and we also have soon to be published bioeconomy action plan. So this will be launched soon, and it will again guide our policy direction for the bioeconomy. To be more specific on research and what I'm talking about here today, currently, over 60 million has already been invested in bioeconomy research, and that's more fundamental. It's been fundamental research in the areas of capacity, for example, technical capability, equipment, facilities, and of course partnerships and networks. But like I said, that's more it's been at quite a fundamental level so far. So that as you'll see, the goal of this call is to now move this research to be more relevant, I suppose, and to move closer towards commercialization. So, as I mentioned there, the challenge that need to be addressed I have three of them outlined here. So, scientific and financial risk. Again, like I said, that concept of moving from our fundamental research towards more of a commercial aspect and making it more relevant to all users along the biological supply value chain. The development of technical capacity as well to do this, to scale up. Point two there, scaling up practices, technologies, and engineering. And thirdly, to develop a greater base for cooperative approaches, and that's again through the likes of EMRA and in the region. So the purpose of the call, I gave a bit of a background. So the purpose of the call is really to address those challenges. So the Bioeconomy Demonstration Initiative offers the opportunity to, I suppose, move beyond, like I said, the fundamental research. So by targeting a higher TRL level, TRL stands for Technology Readiness Level. So this call can bring concepts and initiatives that would say have their foundations in place and bring them closer towards commercialization. To do this, the call will provide funding for capital and operational expenditure primarily. So again, like I said, it breaks down those barriers to essentially de-risk the scale up of bioeconomy technologies in the area. From the point of view from I suppose relevant to many people on the call here today, it will develop the Just Transition Fund territory in Ireland, as Terry has outlined. And this can be true from a research perspective, the development of bioeconomy districts, living labs, technological infrastructure. And again, that's going to be hugely relevant for climate action as an overarching matter. But I suppose from a more focused matter, just employment in the area. So research can give many benefits in those areas. And I suppose finally then to develop collaboration between stakeholders along the whole bio-based value chain. So you can see here primary producers, i.e. like I said, your farmers, foresters, marine sector, and then on to bioprocessing industries, and then the I suppose associated organizations, so your local authorities, research performing organizations, so they'd be your universities, technological universities, and various clusters, and then ultimately your businesses and your end users. Just to move on then, sorry. So the objectives of the call then, so accelerate the innovation process and development of bio-based innovative solutions, accelerate market deployment of innovative bio-based solutions, and then finally ensure a high level of environmental climate performance and of the bio-based industrial system. So essentially that's how it can contribute to neutrality, climate neutrality, circularity, and zero pollution, all those objectives. I'm just going through these quite quickly because in fairness, there's much more detail as I'll outline here at the end of the presentation. But the scope of the call, the research call, is broadly speaking, looking at biorefineries and how they can contribute to an array of value-added products, how we can look at the feedstock for bio-based operations, and then I suppose activities in terms of meeting our climate and environmental performance targets. Points 4 there, 5 and 6, in terms of just developing innovation processes, development and market deployment of innovative bio-based solutions, capitalizing on scientific and technological developments. Like I said, again, those early stage fundamental developments, how we can capitalize on those and move them further down the chain. The scope in terms of the specific objectives of the call, the demonstration initiative, how it can provide, I suppose, us in the department, for example, policymakers, public and private investors, and then local communities with concrete and, I suppose, demonstrable examples of the bioeconomy in action, how it can develop cooperation approaches to align with natural capital, primary production, and circular bioeconomy value chains. And then finally, how the demonstration initiative should develop cooperative business models, again, to be hugely relevant in the Just Transition Fund area. So just moving on to funding, I suppose what a lot of people are probably keen to know is the funding that will be provided through the demonstration initiatives. So as Terry mentioned, we have already opened the first phase of the fund, and there'll be another fund next year. So there's an indicative budget this year of 10 million, and there's expected to be a further 10 million offered in 2024. Just moving on to, I suppose, the finer print, projects can have a value of up to 5 million euros. So as I mentioned, there's a 10 million budget this year. So that essentially means we'll be funding 2 projects. Now, I should stress that 5 million, it's not necessarily a target that needs to be met. Projects can be lower than 5 million in value, but we have allocated 5 million in value to, I suppose, demonstrate the importance and, I suppose, the scale that we're trying to achieve through the call. To the second point, seek to attract a public-private funding approach, again, to really boost the uptake of innovation and market deployment, i.e. your commercialization concept. Projects should be less than or equal to 3 years, so projects will start in early 2024 and they should run till the end of 2026 or less. They can't go any longer than 3 years. Funding rate is a question that's coming up quite commonly. So for non-profit organizations, a funding rate of 100%. SMEs and larger enterprises are subject to state aid rules, so they are not able to avail of 100% of a funding rate. There's, I suppose, quite technical definitions in terms of the funding rate that can be sought. But that's something that can be picked up with ourselves in the department and discussed in more detail. Like I have at the bottom, it's important to refer to the call specification document there on that. Again, I'm just going through this quite quickly, but who can apply? Research performing organizations. So there, for example, your universities, your technological universities. SMEs can apply. Again, like I said, they might not be able to avail of the maximum funding rate, 100% funding rate, but they certainly can apply, and local authorities too. Just going down through this, larger industry partners, their participation project is welcome. Provision of cash in kind contributions or capital. Participation by all applicants is subject to compliance with the National IP Protocol as well. We have two topics. Topic A is optimized and integrated industrial bio-based systems based on agriculture and or forestry-based value chains. Essentially, topic A looks at working forward, I suppose, from agri and forestry bio-based resources, and I suppose introducing innovative technologies to maximize the value extracted from the main natural products, and also, I suppose, side streams from those products. Topic B is looks at the processing and co-processing of bio-based waste and mixed bio-based waste. So I suppose when topic A was looking forward, topic B, you could say, works backwards from waste and how to valorize bio-waste. I suppose the concept of maybe converting bio-waste streams in renewable raw materials and how they can be used to I suppose, on that waste hierarchy. So the call process and assessment of the proposal. So we have launched the call and we're hosting webinars at the minute. There will be deadlines then, technical queries deadlines, and then the proposal submission deadline I will put up on the screen in 1 second. The proposals will then be assessed, and successful applicants will ultimately then be notified and the awards granted, and then the projects will hopefully commence in early 2024. Just in terms of assessing the proposals, the preliminary assessment will be completed by DAFM just to make sure that you've met the criteria of the call specification. We then take in an expert evaluation panel. So this can include experts from overseas, academia, the agri-food industry, the public service, etc., to give a full and thorough evaluation of the proposals that we receive. And then ultimately a high-level review panel will assess the recommendations made by that expert panel, and they will ultimately decide who the successful applicants for funding. Making an application can be done through our online facility, flexigrant.com. Applications should be signed off by, if, for example, you're an RPO, a research performing organization, the vice president of research or head of research, and the technology transfer officer. That'd be the finance office. If you're an SME or local authorities, for example, it's just the equivalent persons. So those that will be in charge of those particular areas, the finance areas and research areas, for example. You can update your proposals regularly on the FlexiGrant system, but I would stress that you should save your application regularly to save all progress. And once the closing time or the deadline expires for submitting the application, it is unfortunately closed. There is no going back on that. So it's important just to meet that deadline. Speaking of the deadlines, I have a few important dates just here up on the screen for the Bioeconomy Demonstration Initiative. So the call opened for submissions on the 16th. There's webinars. This is the current webinar, I suppose. The 29th of August, we hosted a webinar yesterday. A specific webinar, I might just mention that at the end. The 29th of September is the deadline for technical queries to DAFM. So if you do have queries for us, for example, on that co-funding or the funding, we'll say award levels for SMEs, for example, please feel free to get in contact. With the 29th of September is the deadline for those technical queries. The 13th of October then is your ultimate deadline for the call. So all applications have to be in by noon on the 13th of October, sorry. And then by Q1 24, we hope to have the results of the call and then the commencements of the projects. So just finally, a few resources then. The DAFM website, the Department of Agriculture website, the research division, there's a lot more information there. You can see two documents on the screen, the call specification and the guidelines for applicants. Call documents there is what I have on the screen. As I mentioned, we hosted a webinar yesterday, a specific webinar. Terry, we're delighted to have Terry join us for that webinar. So we did host a webinar yesterday. It was much more, I suppose, in-depth detail than what I could give you today. So I would stress that if you're interested in what you're after hearing in terms of the call, please take a look at the webinar recording on our website. And there was also questions from that webinar, so we'll have answers up on the website soon too. Our online portal, you can find out more details on our website too. And then finally, if anyone has any questions for me or for any of the team in the research division with regard to this call, that's the email address up on screen. So I'm going to wrap it up there. That's, I suppose, a brief overview of the demonstration initiative.